So, welcome to the extraordinary meeting of Portishead Town Council. I guess we need housekeeping first. So there are no fire drills planned, but if the fire alarm goes off, can you please leave by the fire exits, not using the lift, and congregate in the folk hall car park until we get the all clear to re-enter the building. Do we have any apologies for absence? I know John Davey, and I know Tim has said that he's working till 7 so that he'll be late, but we are expecting him to be here. Any more? Is that it?
Alan George.
Alan George is also working, isn't he? So he's unable to make it. Declaration of councillors' interest. Does anybody have any interests on any of the agenda items that they need to declare?
No,
nothing I'm aware of. Nothing that I'm aware of.
is there a spare agenda out there before?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nothing else.
None I'm aware of.
Okay, so we move on to item 3 on the agenda, approval of tender submission. To approve the recommendations of the Halls Refurbishment Working Group for the tender submission to appoint a project management company, reports and conclusions attached. So the recommendation is to approve the recommendation of the Halls Refurbishment Working Group on the choice of tender submission. Does anybody wish to speak to this or regarding this?
No, understood the rationale and the feedback, so all okay from my side.
Okay, and I believe, sorry.
I think it might just be worth pointing out that how many tenders were obtained? About 8, was it? 7. And they were all thoroughly investigated.
There were 32 expressions of interest, which turned into 7 tenders, I believe. And I think for the sake of clarity that the recommended one was bidder D, is that correct?
That's right.
So all of these are anonymised for this meeting, so they've just been given letters A, B, C and D. So the proposal is to go with the recommendation of the Halls Working Group and go with bidder D. Do I need a proposer and seconder? Yep. Do I have a proposer for this one? Jenny, and a seconder, Janet. All those in favour? That's it. Unanimous, carried. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, item number 4, parking charges additional submission. To approve an additional submission from the council with regard to the recent parking charges consultation issued by North Somerset Council. There is a motion before the council which says Portishead Town Council agrees that charging for parking both on streets and in car parks does not benefit the residents, businesses or voluntary organisations. In fact, these charges are damaging to the community fabric of Portishead. We resolve to write to the Chief Executive and executive members of North Somerset Council expressing the short-sightedness of these plans and asking them to recognise the damage that these proposals would do to our town. The recommendation here is to approve the motion and write to the Chief Executive and executive members of North Somerset Council. So do I have a proposer for that?
Yeah, all of us.
And yeah, David, and a seconder, Janet, if that's okay. Okay, so you'll probably want to discuss some of this and then take a vote. So as I'm the executive member for North Somerset, I don't feel it's appropriate for me to continue with this part of the meeting. So I'd like to pass this over to the vice chair, not because there's an actual conflict of interest, but just because I think it looks better and it's the right thing to do. So what I'm going to do is leave the room. whilst you all debate and come to a conclusion, that should leave Mike with a casting vote, as I'm no longer chair for this part, which means that we won't miss out on any votes there. So I'll leave the room and I'll see you all. Can someone just let me know afterwards?
Yeah, goodbye, guys.
If only. I quit that years ago, Janet.
Right. So who would like to open the debates?
Any debate at all? I think we just all agree with that.
I think we're all in agreement, aren't we?
Well, I imagine we are. I mean, it seems like it's a bit of a done deal. This is in furtherance to the submission which has already been made, isn't it? And so this is additional wording or specifically to the chief exec.
I can't see that it's going to benefit the town in any way at all. So I'm pretty dead against it. I kind of say.
I think we've got the poll that was taken.
4,500
poll. The
petition.
Yep.
Yeah.
4,700 signatures on it.
The thing is, if we were to have parking charges, how much of it would we see? Probably none at all.
I
So
obviously can't.
there's another good reason not to have it, in my opinion.
I guess the main, we've already all agreed that we're opposed to the parking charges. I guess the only issue to agree on is what form a letter might take. I mean, I guess the reason to write to the executive and the executive members is that they may not see our submission separately. It may just be sucked out of the summary that's going to be done by the researchers who are doing that for the council. So my sense is we could send something that's very similar to the information we put in our submission, but just put it on headed paper and put dear chief exec and executive members.
And do you feel the format of that letter should be arranged now? In terms of, I mean, the submission which has already been made, which you did extremely well on, it's very wordy, isn't it? It's very long. And clearly we can't do that in this instance. So how would you, do we go forward tonight with some wording on this, or shall we leave
I
that?
initially put some suggestions to Dave that he said he'd take into account on an additional letter going to North Somerset. With Roger obviously just reading out that small bit, then I don't think that wording is strong enough, to be honest. I think it should be as strong as we can make it. You know, I'm certainly against parking charges myself, as you all are.
Would it be better that a couple of people amongst you get together in the next day or two and draft up a letter?
I think,
Could do.
I mean, I'm happy to do a first draft and circulate it to a couple of people, just like we did before. And the working party was Bob, myself, Janet, and yourself, Mike, I think. So I'd be happy to draft a letter. My sense is in terms of making our submission shorter, and my ward councillor submission was slightly different. I listed out some of the concerns. We could put those in an appendix, and I think we could probably frame a 2-page letter with an appendix which detailed some of the criticisms and get some comments on that.
Yeah, I think we've as a council and as a town, we've gathered a lot of additional evidence since you know, the original letter went. So I think that's the point that we should be highlighting on, is the additional information that we've actually gathered and concerns clearly from the residents of this town.
But also, I think we do need to reiterate our key concerns. If it's something to make sure it goes in front of the chief exec's eyes, and they may not see what's in the body of our questionnaire. So both things, Bob.
Okay, and then David, so you're happy to do the first draft, are you? Bob, you're going to be adding into that?
I've already added some suggestions today.
So they'll be absorbed into the first draft then? Okay, sounds good. Janet?
I'm very happy with that. The only thing is that I would add to that the fact is that only 4,000 people signed the polls, but partly because most people didn't know about it, even now. For example, when one of the people that I spoke to had gone to the lake grounds, there were 30 cars with elderly people sitting in them, and she knocked on every single window and talked to them, and none of them knew anything about it because it was put out on social media, and they said, oh yes, and we put it in the libraries as well. But that isn't
Not
enough.
everyone goes to the library.
It's
Yeah.
simply poorly, it was very poorly advertised, and I think that we would have had an even stronger response had more people known about it. And I think that has to be a major part of our response, because it's so poor.
Good point.
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll get noted. won't it?
I was just going to say, I think that's the big concern with the public now. We have a elderly group of residents now that, in essence, I mean, I'm 62, so when computers came out, I was in my 20s, and I think that's the point, that we have a slice of residents that are over, say, 60, 65, that are really struggling with communication about their town. We have a paper that's almost non-existent, and I think as a council we're finding it even more difficult to communicate with the elderly residents of our town.
And other people who aren't on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I would say that the majority of people aren't on Facebook even.
Tim, we're just discussing the parking issue in relation to submitting a letter to the chief exec at North Somerset Council. So David's going to do a first draft, which will then get passed around. And would you like to contribute to the debate?
Basically, the words I said at full district council are perfect, really. So you've got the name from there. That's the just my feelings. And
when you made the submission down to full council,
yeah, I've got it all here already on the phone.
the chief exec's at the full council, isn't
Yeah.
he? She.
Yeah, when I had it in the petition, so what I said on there, I mean, I could send it over to you. That's correct. Yeah, I'll send it to you in a minute. So when I go. Yeah. So
And what is one
lots
of the
strong
points?
feelings about it throughout the town, as you know. An interesting one with Nailsea. They've got a small petition of 1,900 odd. And it's all electronic. And their Nailsea town councillor, as you know, the town council did submit the thing, but he said, well, he mentioned I was just emailed back to him saying you need to print it off and then send it in. Then he's all disheartened about it. But I think we need all the numbers from all the towns going, because it's not nearly 2,000. And Cleveland is 2,500. Us is just under 4,600. So we get all those names in from the other towns.
As Janet was just pointing out, there were a number of people who didn't obviously know about the petition and would have signed it probably if they had.
Yeah.
Did you make a point of saying that when you made the submission to the
No,
council?
I didn't. No.
No.
Because to be perfectly honest, if you hadn't gone into Solution or the Lido, you probably wouldn't have known about it if you hadn't visited a cafe or bought a pair of shoes in the last
So is it worth stating to North Somerset the acceptance that a percentage of any town in relation to the parking charges will not have a say, and that they should accept that as part of their review?
I think that's a good point.
I think that will be noted by David. I can see him scribbling.
I'm just thinking to myself, rather than circulating a draft letter to a small group of us and wordsmithing it and then sending it to everyone, because we're a small group of people, I might just send a draft out to everybody.
Yeah.
Just get some
I
comments.
think the
to
response will
submit
be
it early next week.
Yeah.
I can do it Friday and get it around to you by close of play on Friday, so you've all had a chance to look at it.
Okay.
I
Thank
think that's perfect. I think that we don't really need to talk anymore.
Okay,
because
we'll
we-
conclude on that note then. Fine. Anyone wish to volunteer to get the chairman?
We need to vote.
Oh, all right.
Actually going to do this.
Oh, hang on a sec. Okay, a proposal then that we follow that route. Janet, seconded by Bob, and all in favour of them. Yep, unanimous. Thank you.
Mike's gone. Martin?
Martin. Oh. Oh.
Right, thank you very much, Mike. I'm assuming that we took a vote
We did.
and that it passed.
It did.
Great.
Really?
Okay, public participation. Do we have anybody here in the room or online who would like to speak to this meeting?
I'm waiting for Carolyn Watkins to say my dinner's in the dog.
Carolyn, would you like to say anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, would you like to say anything?
Thank you.
The date of the next meeting of the Town Council is Wednesday, the 19th of June, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. I'm assuming in the folk hall. I declare this meeting closed.